Welcome back, listeners. We are so glad you're here. This is the What's Up Casselberry podcast with Andy and Drew. We are on episode number 36, unbelievable, of our little podcast here in Casselberry, Florida. Andy and I are local residents and local pastors who love to have conversations with engaging, informed guests and friends and with each other about all that's going on in Casselberry. Andy, you are so welcome, my friend.
Drew, there's many things that I am welcome for and grateful for about you, but why am I welcome?
Thanks for asking, Andy. You are welcome because I, as you know, returned from a week vacation in Tennessee, spent some time with my family, brought our new little boy on his first road trip, and we survived it. We've brought back fall here to Central Florida. Feels amazing.
For a couple of days.
Yeah, probably by the time this is aired, it could very well be in the 80s and 90s again. But as of recording on October 1st, it is beautiful outside. Andy, is there a favorite fall indicator, marker, activity that just gets you in the kind of quote unquote fall mood? And
Well,
don't say hurricanes.
No, you mentioned it. It's the weather. You know, when the temperature drops below 80 in the morning, I am happy. It was like 73 the other day when I went out, and that's my favorite temperature on the dial. And so I was as happy as could be, and maybe walked a little further and pushed a little harder just because it was a little cooler and I could do so. So yeah, I'm a big fan of the cooler weather.
Excellent. Yes, sir. Me too. I think everyone's just happier, right? Just kind of kinder with the cooler weather.
Well, perhaps that's because it signifies that 2020 is ending, and 2020 has not been an easy year, has it? I think we're all looking forward to January 1 and a restart.
There it is. I like that attitude. Absolutely. And hey, quick highlight. I know our listeners are clamoring to hear more from producer Robin. Producer Robin had a birthday this past week. Happy birthday, Robin.
Thank you.
Did you have a nice birthday?
I did. You know, when you turn 21, it's just fun and games.
Sure. The first time, but on your second, no, just kidding.
Well, this is more like my...
Happy birthday, Robin. We're so grateful for you.
You are dearly loved, Robin. Well, as exciting and celebratory as Robin's birthday, as the cooler weather is, Andy, unfortunately, for our Casselberry in the news segment where we highlight things that are happening in our community, it is sort of a bittersweet day. If you are a frequent shopper at Bed Bath & Beyond, there was a note recently that came out that in nationwide, over 200 stores, Bed Bath & Beyond stores, closing around the country over the next 2 years. And one of the stores that has been marked to close in the future is our very own Casselberry store on 1792. Andy, what would you say? I know you're a frequent shopper at Bed Bath & Beyond. You get all your good stuff there. What does this mean for our community? What does this mean for these types of businesses? Any comments?
It's sad. I mean, it's one of those inevitable kind of fallouts of the COVID situation. I'm sure as people start shopping online and maybe don't want to spend as much on items in the area that Bed Bath & Beyond caters to, it's going to be a loss to our community. It's going to be a loss to bringing people into our community. It's going to be a loss of tax revenue, all of that kind of stuff. But honestly, Drew, it's going to be a loss for me because Bed Bath & Beyond is my go-to. Oh my goodness, I forgot to get my wife, mother, a birthday/Christmas present. Let me go there. There's something. So it's going to force me to plan ahead.
That's very true. That's such a clear marker there on the corner of 1792 and 436. I've referenced other places based upon its location. I'm very curious on what the future will hold for that particular storefront space. It's obviously valuable property. Our hope and desire is that as we continue to not just be a thoroughfare community, but really a place to stop and stay and live and move and have our being, a potentially interested business that will serve our area well will go into that space.
Drew, I do just want to say a quick word, joking about my last minute shopping. There is a serious consequence to it going out of business beyond the loss of revenue for the city. And as you mentioned, that iconic placeholder and location descriptor that it is. And that's that there are people who work there in our community who are going to lose their jobs. And it's sad for them. Some of them will have worked there for many years. They'll have had many friends there, got a regular, stable source of income from there. And whenever a business of that size closes, it does create some instability in people's lives and therefore often some challenges and some difficulties. And so let's not forget the human cost to a business that size closing as well.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, speaking of individuals and people, Andy, we want to plug our new segment that is upcoming at the end of the month, our new Community Member of the Month. That's right. We want to hear from you, listeners. If you have someone living, working, leading, serving in Casselberry, we want to hear from you about that person. Will you give us a shout out, and we will shout out them, maybe have a little gift for our Community Member of the Month through this podcast medium? You can reach out to us and highlight who you think deserves to be the Community Member of the Month by reaching out on our Facebook page, our Instagram page, both titled What's Up Casselberry. You can leave a comment in our comment section of the podcast feed, wherever you find your podcast, or you can go to our website. I would highly recommend going to our website. That's whatsupcasselberry.com. And under contact, leave a comment there and just highlight the fact that you would like so-and-so to be the Community Member of the Month. List why they deserve to be so, and we'll give them a shout out.
Just to say, again, one of the reasons we're doing that is there are a lot of people who are doing thankless tasks to make our community better. And we want to say thank you to those doing those thankless tasks. And breaking news, we haven't spoken about this too in depth yet, but we're going to have some little trophies as well to give the community members. And so hopefully that will allow them to feel appreciated for their huge commitment to our community.
Fantastic, Andy. Yeah. So trophies are on the line. Get it in. Let us know who you think deserves to be the Community Member of the Month. All right. Let's take a moment to highlight one of our community partners. Today's sponsor of the podcast is All In Construction Services. All In Construction offers beautiful home remodeling, renovations, and additions. They've been around since 2008 and are locally owned and operated. You can visit allinconstruction.com. All In Construction supports businesses and the residents of Casselberry. They're a member of the Casselberry Chamber of Commerce, and they will have all of your home remodeling needs. Allinconstruction.com. Thank you, All In, for being a sponsor. We'll be back with our guest.
Hi, listeners. Welcome to my favorite part of the podcast as we interview someone of influence and significance in our city. Today, significance and influence don't come much greater than our guest, our city manager, Randy Newlon. Randy has been on the show before. He's a friend of the program and managed and led incredibly well through arguably one of the toughest times in our city's history. Recently, though, a lot of folks in our city have been talking about water, specifically the water that we get through Casselberry utilities. And after hearing some of those concerns and some of those questions, we thought that we would go right to the source, no pun intended, to the man who is a well of knowledge, pun intended, and someone who can turn the tap on for us about what's happening with Casselberry water. So, Randy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. That was an excellent introduction.
I'm sorry about the puns. Thanks for sticking with us through that. So, Randy, just one more pun. Let's dive into this issue of water.
Sure
and with
thing.
everything that a city does, I know you have a huge team who are involved in leading and organizing multiple parts of our community. The city of Casselberry runs a utility company as well. Can you speak about that, why we're in the utility business, why it's important to the city, and just tell us about the utility organization that's a part of who we are?
Okay, very good. I'll try. We run a water and sewer utility. If we were somebody like Orlando or Winter Park, we might even run an electric company too. But we're not quite there yet. Utility like water and sewer, the reason we're involved, there are obvious reasons that you might guess, which is to assure a good level of service, quality service to our customers, healthy water, sewer services. But it goes back further than that. If you remember, this area wasn't always like it is today. Our city started as just a land development by a gentleman named Hibbert Casselberry, our founder, and he bought up a bunch of land and he looked for ways to make money with it. Among other things, he decided to start developing and attracting people here back in the 60s to buy homes. And when he did that, nobody's going to come unless they can get water. And back in those days, it wasn't readily available. You had to fend for yourself. So developers would set up their own small water company so they could deliver the water to their customers in these new homes in different areas. And that's where they would all start. So Casselberry Utilities was actually a private company owned by the founder even before they incorporated the city itself. It was called Casselberry and South Seminole Utility Company. After a while, the utility grew. Private developers joined Hibbert, invested in it further, expanded it into the greater construction area over by the Greater Mall and Carriage Hill neighborhoods and spread. Other developers came into the area. There was one called Central 5 that you may have heard of that did business over in the Fern Park area. There's another one called General Waterworks, and that was more south and east over in the Eastbrook area. And so eventually the city felt like it needed to be in control. It arranged to purchase the Casselberry Utility Company first, and that was because not so much about the delivery of water, but it was also about controlling and influencing further development and growth. If you could deliver the water where it was needed, then it would be easier for developers to come in and grow the city, annex in more property. There'd be more wealth and prosperity for everyone. So controlling growth was very important. Having a water company provided that entitlement that a developer would need to come here instead of somewhere else. And so we further purchased the other utilities that I mentioned so that we grew our service area well beyond the city limits in hopes that the city would grow further too. And so this is where we are today. We have assembled these private utilities into one public one. They're all been in the ground since the 50s, 60s, and 70s, so they're dated. And we're working to keep them up to modern standards of quality and safety that our regulators put on us. So along with public health and safety, it's about development too.
Randy, that's excellent. It transfers right into my next kind of question for you. I'm a member of Casselberry and a citizen, and I, like probably most that are listening, turn the tap on, see water come out, don't really know much else. Could you maybe give us just a brief recap? Where does the water actually come from? Where does our wastewater go? What's the process to ensure that our homes and businesses have fresh water?
I'm not an engineer, very technical, but water for different communities around the country come from different sources. In our case, we find our water underground, and it comes from the aquifer. It's been described as though you might describe it as mining for water. That's where it comes from. Some places use surface water, some even desalinate water from the ocean, but we take it from underground. So we have pumps and we have wells that are very, very deep, and we draw water up from the aquifer. We're allowed to do that because we are permitted to do so by the Department of Environmental Protection. And they issue something called a consumptive use permit. We have to apply every year, make sure we're meeting standards, and that we're not overdrawing. We only can draw so much water, and we have to measure it very precisely. So we draw it up, we treat it, aerate it to kind of remove the sulfur taste from it and smell. We chlorinate it, make sure that it's disinfected, and then we pump it out with high service pumps through a distribution line that is 222 miles of water mains, all over the area. And those water mains deliver the water to all of our customers, be them single family residents or multifamily homes, but also businesses, schools, everybody. We have all types of customers. And then where we can, and for our city, almost everywhere, we're able to return that wastewater from all those users back to the city for treatment so that it's handled and treated and made reclaimed. So we have a water reclamation center that receives all this wastewater. We treat it with probes and other kinds of chemicals, and we distill it down into something that we're able to return to the environment again. What some people may not realize is not only do we handle the wastewater here locally, which also leads to the distribution of something called reclaimed water in some areas for irrigation of yards and that sort of thing, but the city, just like Seminole County and some other cities, Winter Park, we are co-owners with the city of Orlando with a huge, huge facility called the Iron Bridge. And there's a transmission authority that actually takes a lot of our wastewater out of this area and delivers it to the Iron Bridge, where it's treated remotely out in East Orlando. I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah,
Anyway,
Drew, it's not just a case of turning the tap on and water coming out. There's a whole lot more behind that.
That's
220 miles of pipes in our city. That's a lot. And I do appreciate, Randy, that once a year in my water utility bill, I receive a little statement on the quality of our water as well. And I appreciate that you test and check that, because with a system this broad, there's a lot that could go wrong. I know there's lots of financial ramifications with water as well. Honestly, my first introduction to a utility company was when we used to play the board game Monopoly. You guys remember that? And there was the Utilities Commission. And you could buy it. I think it felt like pretty expensively when you started. It was a steady source of income. It was just a nice property to have on the board. And two things I learned from that as I've kind of grown to understand a little bit more about utilities. One, as you mentioned, utilities is an absolutely crucial part of a city's infrastructure. If you don't have it, then nothing in the city works. Second thing I think I've learned as I've grown up a little bit is that the finances are a lot more complex in real life than they are in a game of Monopoly. So can you tell us a little bit about the financial side of the water utilities? How are charges derived? How do we compare with other counties in our charges? Just speak to us about the financial side of the water system.
The charges are derived from anticipated costs. We know what it's going to cost in general terms with inflation and that sort of thing for the labor, for the chemicals, for the utility, the electric that goes into it, the insurance costs, the soft costs, everything that goes into operating a utility generally day to day, we can predict that pretty well. We also need to predict and schedule those very large capital costs we need to do. An important part of keeping up a system this large is the renewal and replacement of what we have, keeping it up to standard, keeping it from falling into disrepair. So we schedule out capital costs that could include water main replacements, plant refits, new equipment there, sewer lines, lift stations, electronics, telemetry, all kinds of things. And we schedule these projects out over time, and we estimate those costs with the help of engineers, and we come up with a master plan. And with that master plan, we schedule those projects in such a way that we can fit it into our ability to pay for them. And to do that, we use the help of financial analysts, experts that come in to model what our rates will bring in versus what we need to spend. Basically raise the money we need to raise and distribute the cost to carry the system equitably throughout all of our different customers. And also seek to achieve, through the way our rates are structured, a way to kind of encourage, if not coerce, conservation, because we have to remember that water is a natural resource. It's not a commodity, and we have to try to only use as much as we need. And so if our prices get higher the more we use, then we tend to think twice about whether or not we can really afford to keep living in this way. So with the modelers, they come in and they can basically cook the numbers and shift them different ways, and then we schedule these tiered rates that begin cheap and are really structured towards, in the case of, say, single family homes, where the average, and most of our customers land, if that makes any sense.
On social media, I see some comments from time to time where people will maybe throw out the number that they paid on a particular month or talk in broad terms about the cost of water. I heard you mention, which I think listeners, we need to take note that there are not only the cost of the resource, but also the maintenance of said resource to make sure that there's costs built in to continue to have clean water. So thank you for that. Would you say that water is equitable in cost in Casselberry to other communities? Because I see folks kind of joking, well, I'm just going to move to another area with sort of the assumption that water will be cheaper there. Know that information?
Well, sure. We set our rates and then we reset our rates and we reset our rates over time. So does everybody else. So it's a big moving target. So where we sit relative to our peers in the market could change from one year to another. It may have changed, with us crossing over onto October, which is the new fiscal year for everybody. But where we stand is a little bit higher than the average. Right now, we're standing a little bit higher than the average, which is about $50 for water and sewer services for 4,000 gallons, which is pretty close to the average usage of our single-family residents in the city. At this stage, we're charging $58.63 for the same water. But other cities like Maitland and even Seminole County, Oviedo, they're higher. Longwood's a little bit lower. Some are lower still. It all kind of varies. And that's because as we seek to set the charges in such a way to recover the costs we need to run our system, with the level of investment that we need to make at this point in time, given the age of our system, we're different and unique from everybody else. And 10 years from now, these roles could all reverse again.
It's just very hard to make an apples-to-apple comparison with other cities because of the uniqueness of every utility system.
Right. You could criticize and say we're a little high, but the truth is we're not a commodity. We're not supposed to be the same as everybody else. This is what it costs to deliver water and sewer services in this market. And I suppose you could move somewhere else if the only thing that drove you was cheaper utilities. But right now, this is just part of the bundle of what it takes to live here.
So kind of along that line of thinking then, the city of Casselberry, is the city making money by operating this utility?
Certainly draw revenue. That's making money in order to pay for the utility. But I think you're asking, does the city government actually make money from running the utility? The city government exists for the benefit of the city residents and the city businesses and city taxpayers. And so, yes, the utility does contribute some money for the benefit of the owners of the utility, as I described. But you need to understand that the money that is drawn by the government from the utility is very limited. For example, as we discussed, this utility could be in private hands or it could be in public hands. If it's in private hands, it's for profit. We have utilities that operate in this city already now that are for profit. And that includes the telephone company, mobile services, gas, Duke Energy for electric. And so all of those things exist for a profit, and they distribute the profit to their shareholders. And to operate in the city, without being an owner, actually requires these utilities to pay a franchise fee. A franchise fee is a fee that's based on the revenue, and they distribute it to the city, and it's an important revenue that drives our government. And so we don't really take anything more from our utility than we would have taken from it if it was in private hands. And so we define just a fixed amount into the rates that will be ultimately distributed to the government as its owner. But if there were any other profits, any other surpluses derived from this utility, they would stay in the utility as reserves, and they would be reprogrammed with the next rate study to be part of what is invested in the future.
I think it's just worth sharing that the purpose of the utility, it's not for business to make profit, but rather, as you said, to give back to the services for our citizens. So thank you for clarifying that. We have a really significant election coming up in a month or so regarding our city commissioners. What's the role of the commission in coordinating with you and the staff in regards to our utilities like water?
Well, ultimately, they're the board of directors for this utility business, just like anybody else. So they represent the customers and the residents and anyone with an interest in the utility, and they make the final decisions on many of these policy decisions that we're making, the capital improvements that are made, the rates that are set. They're the final decision maker on much of these big decisions.
Which is not why they get paid the big bucks, because they don't do that, but they do find themselves in the firing line. Yeah.
It's just one more hat they have to wear.
Randy, something that's very close to Drew and my heart, maybe because of our pastoral backgrounds and because we try to care for the community. It's been a tough season for many, with income down and many being furloughed and losing their jobs and things like that. And so there's been some questions that we've heard about what's the city and specifically the water utility department doing to help customers who may fall behind in their payments or because they have a unusually high bill. This is designed to serve the city, but it's not like you're money grabbers. And I know that you're trying to be as benevolent and compassionate as you can with people. Tell us what the city does to help people who fall behind in their payments.
Well, sure, Andy. The city wants to be benevolent and kind, certainly. They also need to be fair and equitable, to everyone. Treat everyone as much as we can the same. And so we recognize folks do get into troubles, and sometimes it's because of things beyond their control. Sometimes it's not. But it's really hard for us to judge a customer. And so we just try to create opportunities to help. And so when someone falls behind and they want to keep their service, then what we try to do is work with them. And we start with a payment plan. And so we extend their accrued balance, over time to give them time to catch themselves back up if they have the means. Sometimes the balance is high because of something beyond their control. Perhaps there was some kind of a leak, some kind of a slab leak in their home, which caused damage and maybe other things. Could be a water main leak coming into the house. Could be as simple as not realizing that your toilet's in disrepair and the flapper valve is just running and running and running, and you'd be surprised at how much water it goes through. When these sad events happen, because of our rate structure, it can lead to bills that are just huge. And what we need folks to do is to come to us and let us know what happened, and please level with us as to what did happen. And then with that information, we're then able to structure something that we can do to bring their bills down and give them relief. Maybe even take certain aspects of the bills off altogether, sewer charges, that sort of thing. And so that's the most effective thing to do. But sometimes folks, they don't really know what happened. And when that occurs, our city commission has asked for us to have more flexibility, and we've created an option where a customer can come to us and ask for relief. They don't know what the deal was, and they really don't know how to explain it. But we can give them relief if it's over a certain level, if it's high enough. We'll take them down to their average, and we'll reduce the charges for the excess usage down to the lowest tier so it becomes more affordable. And you really don't have to prove anything. You just have to ask for it. Some folks fall behind because they're financial distress. And the city is not good at judging whether someone is worthy of assistance. But what we're trying to innovate right now is a partnership with a charitable organization that we can donate some money to as a nest egg, and who is good at that sort of thing, helping people in need, pointing them in the right direction, maybe paying up their utility bills for now, and helping them to get back on their feet. We're hoping to model something like some other cities have done. City of St. Cloud, most recently I encountered. And so we haven't got it in place yet, but we're very excited to possibly get that in place soon too.
I really appreciate the innovative ways that you are, trying to be fair and equitable. I think that's very appropriate, obviously, for a government. But the way you're trying to come up with creative ways to help people, acknowledging that we have been through this tough time. Randy, we're running out of time, so I'll just ask you to answer this question a little bit quickly. But,
Sure.
this is a heavy topic. It's very involved and intricate. But maybe you could close just by sharing with us a highlight, a story of something that you're proud of that the city is doing in terms of its utility company, and something we're doing well. Again, no pun intended.
Well.
Now you're doing it. These puns are contagious, Randy.
The best thing we're doing is actually being forward-looking as far as the utility. We're moving ahead with replacing our meters out in the field with a smart meter technology, we call it, remote read meters that will allow us to be able to link in with them in real time every day instead of once every 30 days when we happen to walk by and touch it with a wand. So we know what's happening. We'll have a better ability to know if someone's having problems in their home, a leak that maybe hasn't been discovered, and we can contact them within days instead of within weeks, after much damage has been done. So I'm very glad of that. And I think it'll be something that we'll be able to give our customers ultimately better information they can use to judge how they're doing as far as being a utility customer. But we're also very aggressive and eyes wide open about the need to renew and replace our infrastructure. And so we've had some very ambitious programs over the last 10 years, and we've replaced $16 million worth of water mains and another 12 in sewer. We've modernized our plants. We have a water plant that's now being completely renovated and retrofitted. It's offline now. It will be back online soon. Our water reclamation facility is being renovated, everything. So we're really catching up with where we ought to be given how old our system is. And so that's really important for us to be able to assure a quality of service and a safety level that our customers need. And we're not going to be that utility that's in distress like you hear about in some areas of the country. The big talk is aging infrastructure. But we're doing a good job here, and I think we should be proud of that.
As a resident and citizen of the city, I am glad that when I turn on my taps, I have water coming out that's healthy, that's passing all the tests and those kind of things. Randy, thank you so much for joining us. This is another of those episodes where my mind is, again, no pun intended, swimming with thoughts, because this is such a complex issue. And I appreciate your leadership in it and through it and for it. I realize that some of our listeners may have further questions. How can people contact you and your staff to find some answers to any questions they may have?
I can be reached here at City Hall at 407-262-7700. That's our phone number. My email address is the letter J and my last name, Newlon, Newlon, at casselberry.org, O-R-G. Those would be good ways to follow up with questions.
And of course, the city website is full resource for all things city. That's at www.casselberry.org. Is that correct?
It is, and we have a Facebook page too.
That's fantastic. Randy, thank you so much for being our guest today. Thank you for making us smarter by explaining to us things that I certainly didn't know beforehand as well. Thank you as well for your desire to be upfront and open and vulnerable and proactive in communicating with our city. Again, that speaks well of you and your organization, and it's one of those factors that makes our community so strong. So, Randy, thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Andy. Drew, really enjoyed it.
Wow. Thank you, Randy, for that interesting and very, very helpful and informative talk. Andy, I feel like we will be sharing that information about water in our city with many others for many months and hopefully even years to come. Andy, would you close our episode out with giving us an inspirational quote?
Yeah, today's inspirational quote, according to my show notes, comes from a Bill Shakespeare. Now, I'm assuming you mean William Shakespeare, but I'm sure you're calling him Bill because of your deep friendship with him, Drew. So this is a quote from William Shakespeare. We know what we are, but we do not know what we will yet be. Let me say that again. There's a lot of we's, what's, and wills in there. We know who we are, but we do not know what we will yet be. I think Shakespeare is reminding us that even though we know and understand who we are in the moment, that there is a bigger, brighter, bolder, better future ahead for us. And we don't know yet what that looks like. And we don't know the greater, stronger person we will become to live into that future. I'm reminded in those words that even in difficult times, we have cause to be optimistic. Even in these dark times, the future is bright. And even at times when it feels like life is hopeless, there is still hope for us. Drew's friend Bill Shakespeare, I'll call him William out of respect, said this: "We know what we are, but we do not know what we will yet become."
Excellent. A great quote indeed. Folks, we sure hope you've enjoyed this episode of the What's Up Casselberry podcast, a casual conversation about our community. We'd love you to listen to previous episodes, including a recent one on race and reconciliation. This podcast is produced by the help of our friend and birthday girl, Robin Kepi. For more information, please check out our website, whatsupcasselberry.com, our Facebook page, Instagram page, or podcast feed, all with the name What's Up Casselberry. Like and subscribe to our podcast. We'd love to rate and review us. Give us 5 stars if you think we're worthy of it. Until next time, have a great week.